remember the trolley cars, when the trolley cars started.
You remember when they started?
Yes, it was dirt roads from Wilmington to Newcastle. And you had to drive a horse and wagon or else you didn't get there. And they put in a trolley track from Newcastle to Wilmington. Now, I remember when we didn't have any snow plows, and everybody just cleaned off their pavements when it snowed hard and pushed it out in the streets, you know. In the same way on Delaware Street, they did the same thing. And it packed down so hard that the farmer boys would bring their girls in, and they'd have races on up and down on Delaware Street in a sleigh. I have my sleigh bells there, if you want to hear them.
Sure.
They're old.
Just ring them.
Aren't they beautiful? Now, did you ride a horse or did you ride a buggy or a wagon when you went?
I rode everything that had wheels or legs.
You enjoyed doing that?
Oh, yes. Oh, country girls, they were tomboys.
I was just going to say, nobody ever accused you of being a tomboy then?
No, that was just a natural thing to do.
Now, the trolley barn wasn't that far from your house then, was it?
No, it was right down there by the railroad track.
And the crossover with the trolley?
It went over a big high bridge.
Right.
Them white stones down there by my house is one of the pillars where the bridge ended. And 2 white stones there, and then there's 2 white stones at this other street. Great big blocks.
Things though.
I remember when the beer wagons used to come through with 4 horses, and they'd get stuck. And they always brought beer in kegs them days, on big round kegs. And they stood up on the wagon. The wagon part now was this shape, and they stand one on top of the other.
And what happens when they got stuck?
Well, they called some of the farmers to come hook another pair of horse to them and pull them out.
Now, was your house all surrounded then by farms?
Yes, it was all surrounded by farms.
What was the big farm right near your dad's house well, who did he buy his land from?
Well, I think he bought it from a man named Janver, Mr. Janver. First, my father he bought 3 acres to build his house on, but he bought them 3 acres off of Mr. Janver.
I'd like you to tell me about when you moved out to the big farm, out by the airport, where the airport is now.
Oh, that was a trustees of the Commons land. Well, it was going to be vacant that year, and we always farmed big farms. My husband was a good farmer, and he always farmed big. We farmed big farms. It had 265 acres, that farm had. It had a long field, and that's the reason the air base come to take it. It belonged to trustees of the Commons. So when the air base, they were looking for, I guess, I remember in the first airplane, I rode in the first airplane there was in Newcastle.
Why don't you describe that?
Well, they were building the airplane then, but it was one of these here open airplanes, you know. And it had a wing this way and a wing this way. And then the motor was in the middle, and there was 2 seats. The man sat back here. So one day they gave me a ride, and I sit front. And we went out over the river. Then after a while, it got so popular, they were there for a long time. I forget the name of them, that airplane. That they were taking rides up and charging them $3.
And this was on your farm?
Yeah, that was on my farm.
Now, as a child growing up in Newcastle, what kind of jobs did you have around the house?
Oh, growing up in Newcastle? Well, I run the first telephone company was ever in Newcastle. I was a telephone operator. Now, that's very interesting. They had one telephone booth, you might say, and you sit there. There only was about. Now, this is good. There only was about 20, 30 telephones in Newcastle that time. So I and another girl, we had to split our time. It was kind of piecework. And she worked part of the day and I worked the rest of the part of the day. And then a boy come on at night. And it was down where Dr. Carl just left. You know where he...
Sure, down on Delaware Street. Now, do you remember any of the businesses that had phones? You remember the names of some of the companies?
Well, there were some of the mills. Of course, I remember when they had gas lights in Newcastle. The man would go around. I guess you've heard that before.
No.
You didn't?
No, go ahead.
Well, I remember when they had the gas lights, and they only had one on every other square, and the man would go around with a little ladder, about 2 rungs, and he'd open up this here, like that. There was a cage on the pole, and he opened it up, and he had some kind of a little thing like what the men have for cigarette lighters, I guess. And he'd light that light, and then he'd shut it up and go on to the next one. They didn't have any electric lights. It was gas lights, and they had a gas works down on the battery. Now, the battery wasn't fancy like it is today. It had a gas works there, and it had another place called Taskers. That was an iron mill.
Did you have gas lights in your farmhouse, or did you use...
Oh, no.
What did you use to light the house?
We used either lanterns or lights. I got a lot of lights, my goodness. Lamps, oil lamps. We used oil lamps to go to the barn to milk. I went to barn many times taking an oil lamp to help milk.
How many cows did you have?
Well, we were big farmers when we farmed. We'd have 45 head of cattle, but they wouldn't be all milking at the same time. We'd have some dry cattle and some cattle coming in fresh, and some ready milking.
And you worked with your husband on the farm?
Oh, yes. He'd pitch hay to me, and sometime I would gear up to 2 horses and cut some hay in the morning. He run a big milk route in Newcastle, was supervised by the state, and the doctors always ordered people in Newcastle with children or sick to buy Megginson milk. Of course, they had to come and take a sample of it about once a month and see how many bacteria it had in it. And if it was high with bacteria, we'd get notice. We'd have to cut down some way on some of the, I don't know what they'd call bacteria counts. That's just business now. I don't think that has anything to do with this.
Well, that's it.
We used to serve it in glass bottles. Glass bottles with our name printed in the glass. Megginson.
So you had a regular business then?
Oh, yes.